We're just in there because we're nice people, and we are nice people, but we're using a lot of pressure on both.
What concessions, Mr. President, and to your national security team, what concessions has Russia offered up thus far to get to the point where you're closer to peace?
Stopping the war, taking the whole country. Pretty big concession.
Trump's so incredibly weak when it comes to Vladimir Putin, he isn't even trying to hide it anymore. Even he doesn't believe that not completely taking over Ukraine is some kind of Russian concession for peace, especially since they bombed Kyiv hours before.
Russia has launched a big missile and drone attack on Ukraine's capital, Kyiv. Large explosions were reported and at least 9 people have been killed. Well, the latest pictures from Kyiv show that the damage appears to be extensive, with the city's mayor saying that the attack caused several fires and dozens of people were being treated in hospital. It is one of the biggest attacks in recent months. Well, they come as President Donald Trump accused Mr. Zelensky of harming peace negotiations after the Ukrainian leader said his country's institution does not allow his government to recognize Crimea as Russian territory. The US is pressing Ukraine to accept a deal that would see Russia's maintain control of most of the territory it occupies, which is highlighted here in red.
The Trump administration's cautious and scared approach to negotiations towards Russia hadn't worked. So Trump responded to the attack on Kyiv by posting to Truth Social, because that'll really show Putin he means business. I'm not happy with the Russian strikes on Kyiv. Not necessary. And very bad timing. Vladimir, stop. 5,000 soldiers a week are dying. Let's get the peace deal done. I get the feeling that Putin already knows that thousands of soldiers are dying, considering he's the one that invaded Ukraine and started the war, while Trump and his team were too afraid to even admit that truth. The way that this MAGA messiah is getting publicly clowned is really embarrassing for the party of tough guys.
This morning in a Truth Social post, you used the words, Vladimir, stop. That seemed like a slightly different message, a personal message. What is your level of frustration with President Putin?
I didn't like last night. I wasn't happy with it. And we're in the midst of talking peace, and missiles were fired. And I was not happy with it. That's what I meant, and that's, what he said.
I was not happy, and that's what I meant, and that's what I said. This is worse than when he kissed Putin's ass in Helsinki in 2018. I really want to know what MAGA sycophants think of this extreme case of cowardice. He couldn't even finish the sentence without swallowing the end of it.
Sorry,
yeah,
if the bombs keep falling, will you consider additional sanctions toward Russia, or what will you do if President Putin does not respond?
I'd rather answer that question in a week. I want to see if we can have a deal. No reason to answer it now, but I won't be happy. Let me put it that way. Things will happen.
Mr. President, why are you not putting more pressure on Russia? I know a lot of Europeans.
Putting a lot of pressure. You don't know what pressure I'm putting on Russia. They're dealing. You have no idea what pressure I'm putting on Russia. We're putting a lot of pressure.
Can you maybe tell us that?
We're putting a lot of pressure on Russia, and Russia knows that, and some people that are close to it know, or he wouldn't be talking right now. The Prime Minister understands that better than anybody. He wouldn't be talking right now. He's talking, and we're putting a lot of pressure. I think he wants to make a deal. We're going to find out very soon, but it takes 2 to tango. And you have to have Ukraine want to make a deal too.
You ever notice that Trump saying very soon we'll find out has been happening for months? Does he know that nobody's buying his empty declarations of all that pressure he's putting on Russia? The same country that was exempted from his worldwide tariffs and refusal to place responsibility for this war after he was quick to berate Zelensky and kick him out of the Oval Office? He looks scared, and nobody's buying his empty promises.
30-day ceasefire proposal, your national security team presented it to both Ukraine and Russia. 2 months ago, Ukraine agreed to that ceasefire proposal. Immediately, Russia has not. And my question is Russia the obstacle to peace based upon that, just getting to that 30-day ceasefire?
I don't think so. I think that they both want peace right now. They're ready to do something.
So the country that's broken multiple ceasefires and peace talks isn't the obstacle to peace. The only way anyone can take the responsibility off of Putin is by watching how easily Trump's negotiating team sets the stage for him to violate all these ceasefires.
We've issued a very explicit proposal to both the Russians and the Ukrainians, and it's time for them to either say yes or for the United States to walk away from this process. We have engaged in an extraordinary amount of diplomacy, of on-the-ground work. We've really tried to understand things from the perspective of both the Ukrainians and the Russians. What do Ukrainians care the most about? What do the Russians care the most about? And I think that we've put together a very fair proposal. We're going to see if the Europeans, the Russians, and the Ukrainians are ultimately able to get this thing over the finish line.
To sort of begin to talk about more specific outlines of what it might take to end a war, to try to figure out very soon, and I'm talking about a matter of days, not a matter of weeks, whether or not this is the war that can be ended. If it can, we're prepared to do whatever we can to facilitate that and make sure that it happens, that it ends in a durable and just way. If it's not possible, if we're so far apart that this is not going to happen, then I think the president's probably at a point where he's going to say, well, we're done.
So again, are the MAGA supporters that bought the lines of BS about Trump ending the war in 24 hours, then again in 1 week, and then again within the first 100 days, proud of these guys saying that they're ready to tuck tail and run?
Secretary Rubio said that the U.S. will have to figure out whether a deal can be done between Russia and Ukraine in a matter of days, or you will just move on.
Yeah, very shortly.
How many days is that?
No specific number of days, but quickly. We want to get it done. We're talking about here people dying. We're talking about over there people are dying also, like on average 2,500 young people, soldiers. If for some reason one of the two parties makes it very difficult, we're just going to say you're foolish, you're fools, you're horrible people, and we're going to just take a pass. But hopefully we won't have to do that.
Yo, what happened to promises made, promises kept? Or he knows and gets along with dictators so much, all he has to do is make a phone call and they'll do whatever he says. What happened to the steel resolve and chiseled chin of these patriots? Seems like reality is a lot different than empty self-promotion on the campaign trail. People that called this out didn't have Trump derangement syndrome. They listened to what he said and identified how incredibly incompetent he is, while supporters did cartwheels and shook some pom-poms.
Both very much looking to make a deal. Marco, what would you say?
Well, first of all, what was put before our partners was options to discuss about things that it would take to end a war. This war is endable. Both sides just have to agree to it. We've shown them a pathway forward. We've discussed those ideas. There was a good meeting yesterday. There'll be good meetings over the weekend. We've shown them the finish line. We need both of them to say yes. But what happened last night with those missile strikes should remind everybody of why this war needs to end. It's horrible those missiles landed. What's even worse is there are today people that were alive yesterday that are not alive today, because this war continues, and the president wants to stop it. And everyone should be thanking the president for being a peacemaker and trying to save lives. That's what we're trying to do here. It's not our war. We didn't start it, as you know. But we're trying to end the dying. We're trying to end the destruction.
So this is where we are. The strongman leader of the United States needs the guy that he used to call Little Marco to step in and tell everyone that they need to thank him for trying. The people that rail on participation trophies and claim America to be the most honorable and powerful nation on earth want you to thank Trump for trying. It's weakness on full display. And even some conservatives, like Mike Pence's former chief of staff, they can't even ignore it.
I think it looks really weak, which I think is something the president does not like, that image. But right now, I think he looks weak in these negotiations. But I think we're also forgetting, that when Russia invaded, the sort of general wisdom was that Russia will overtake Ukraine in a matter of days or weeks. They survived for 3+ years and actually were degrading Russia's military significantly. Russia was needing Iran to provide drones, China to provide money, North Korea to provide troops. And so Ukraine was more than holding its own if they just were to get support from the world to say, we're going to stop a murderous dictator from invading our country.